Oh boy, I was just about to start my live stream when Yoshi decided to drop another update in an attempt to fix the urn. We've got another set of balance changes here to discuss regarding the urn, including some changes that are directed at a strat that just broke Deadlock Night Shift yesterday, which is pretty crazy. We're going to discuss that in a little bit here. So let's talk about these changes. First up, they're actually making the urn spawn less frequently throughout a match. There will be less urns, just period, full stop. The urn will now spawn in at 12 minutes instead of 10 minutes, and the interval has been increased to every 6 minutes instead of every 5 minutes. So the urn is something that won't take place as frequently, and it'll give you more time to push walkers, farm, etc., rather than constantly fighting over the urn, which is some much needed reprieve, I will say, although it will also result in the economy slowing down a little bit because there won't be as many souls injected into both teams with the urn. Also, something that should have been in there from the start, urn timer now gets frozen with frozen shelter. This was the case with the old urn. You would freeze the urn, you wouldn't be able to pick it up, you wouldn't be able to deposit it. And this is the same for every other objective in the game too, whether it's the mid-boss, the rejuvenator crystal, walkers, even the patron are all frozen by frozen shelter. But for some reason this wasn't, which made absolutely no sense, and it resulted in teams absolutely cheesing the crap out of the urn. You would throw down Kelvin's dome, and you would get it basically guaranteed as long as there weren't enemies inside the dome. And if they were in the dome, they were of course at a massive disadvantage because of all the healing Kelvin provides. So, yeah, this is just a no-brainer change. I have no idea why this wasn't done sooner. Now, let's talk about the strat that broke Deadlock Night Shift. The team Melee Creeps came up with a strat where, well, they threw the early game intentionally in order to get the comeback urn, because the comeback urn provided everyone around it with 35% bullet and spear resist. And once they had this objective, they used the urn to just go around pushing everything. They took the mid-boss, they took walkers, and it was nigh impossible for the other team to realistically fight against them because everyone had this 35% bullet and spirit resist aura. It's really hard to defeat a team with that, even if you're ahead by, 20k souls. And the team that was against them ended up forfeiting because of how stupid this strategy was. It was not fun in the slightest. And so they have fixed that by making the urn no longer provide this aura for the team that's behind when it is being carried or dropped. It's only active while being deposited, so you only get this aura when you're actually doing the urn. You can't take the urn over to a walker, over to the mid-boss, and still get those buffs. Now, the urn runner, when behind, still has this 35% bullet and spirit resist, but only for themselves, which is absolutely fair, and it's actually how the urn worked before. So yeah, no more cheese with the urn. That's a great thing, because especially after it was exhibited in that Deadlock Night Shift, I have a feeling a lot more people were going to start trying it out, and it's just not really how the urn is meant to be used at the end of the day. It was another massive oversight from the devs who implemented this new urn. They also fixed the trailing team urn runner's extra sprint bonus not working properly. Apparently it wasn't. I had no idea, but hey, it's worth pointing out. Now, they've done a lot of stuff here to change what happens when you're picking up the urn and holding onto the urn. First of all, the urn will do damage to the runner after a team has held it for 30 seconds. Previously, this was 50 seconds. But the timer will freeze while there are enemies within a 40-meter radius of the urn runner. So the damage happens significantly faster, but if you're in danger, you don't have to worry about taking damage from the urn at all, which is reasonable enough. The next change here is that the urn will now always add at least 2 seconds to the team's 30-second held timer limit anytime it is picked up, even if it is instantly dropped. So if you're constantly dropping the urn and then picking it back up, and then you're fighting over it and you just keep picking it up, eventually the urn will just start doing damage to you, even if it hasn't been 30 seconds of actual time holding the urn. So it's really going to be a damage threat if you're constantly dropping it like this, and this is to prevent holding the urn hostage as much. However, you are no longer prevented from picking up the urn for 12 seconds after it is dropped after the previous 50-second team held timer. So you can keep picking it up, but I mean, eventually you're gonna run into that damage, and the urn hits hard. Now, here's another great change. The conditions for when the urn decides to run back home have been reworked. The urn will now stay in place on the ground as long as there are enemies within a 40-meter radius, and enemies are defined for this as the enemies of the last person to have dropped or fumbled the urn. So, basically, as long as the urn is contested, you have people from both teams fighting it out next to the urn, well, the urn will stick around. You don't have to worry about the urn waddling off in the middle of a team fight, and then when one team finally comes out on top, the urn is gone, and you can't turn it in. You have to go walk all the way back over to the other side of the map. So that's one headache just absolutely gone. And if there are no enemies, then the urn will wait up to 13 seconds if there is a friendly player in a 40-meter radius. And then another anti-stalling feature has been added. If the urn held timer is over 45 seconds, keeping in mind this timer is frozen if there are nearby enemies, the next time it is dropped, it will immediately start running back home if there are no nearby enemies. So once again, if it's in contest, it won't run away. But if you've been holding onto the urn for too long and then you drop it, it's going to start running back home, so you can't hold the urn hostage for nearly as long. And then finally, we have some changes to parrying a trooper, which is ultimately going to result in freezing waves being just a little bit harder. So parrying a trooper no longer resets your parry cooldown, but it also won't end your parry early like a hero hit does. This means that you can't just spam parries on troopers anymore in order to stall them out, draw their attention onto you, but not take any damage in the process. Now, you will stun the trooper when you parry it, which will still result in you taking less damage, but having your parry be on cooldown means that in the long term, yeah, the wave is gonna start doing damage to your tower or damage to you more consistently, and you just won't be able to freeze it the same way as you used to. And furthermore, if you're in the middle of a fight and you parry a trooper, you will be vulnerable to melee attacks now because your parry will be on cooldown. Previously, parrying a trooper would reset your cooldown, and you could kind of bait enemies into thinking that your parry was down and have them charge up a heavy attack and send it at you, and then you would just parry them. That is no longer the case, so you have to be a lot more careful, especially around those melee-heavy characters like Abrams and Viscus, because parrying troopers just won't really bait them like it used to. But yeah, once again, these are a lot of changes for the urn, and, well, I do think that they are changing the urn for the better. They are slowly refining it and making it a better experience with these new mechanics. And so, as always, you should continue to give your feedback to Valve on the appropriate forums, and also in the comment section of this video. I want to see what you think about it, too. And I do still think that there are a lot of issues with the current urn. The major focus for me is just that we're kind of in an AoE slop meta right now. Everyone on both teams always shows up to the urn, and they all fight right on top of it, because they're all trying to parry the urn, punch the urn, etc. And it means that a character like Seven can walk on in there, throw a single lightning ball, and just reap so many benefits, and eventually everyone winds up dead. It's chaotic, there's a lot of clutter on the screen, and it's just not a very refined experience. It's honestly a bit too much, and I do think that something needs to be done about it, but I don't know exactly what would be the best solution right now, but it is still something that's like, it just feels a little bit more frustrating to engage in urn fights now than it did previously. Sometimes the burger boxing is fun, other times it just feels like you can't tell what's going on, and then half of everybody in the lobby winds up dead, and it's just like, what the heck are we doing here? Are we playing Marvel Rivals now? This is way too chaotic. So yeah, let me know what you think about the update in the comments section down below. Make sure to like this video if you enjoyed, and subscribe so you don't miss out on future update videos from me. And with all that being said, thank you guys for watching. I will see you all next time. Peace out.